Have you ever felt like you're walking through a long, dark tunnel? You keep moving forward, hoping to see the light, but it feels like the more you walk, the darker it gets. The silence becomes deafening and you're left wondering, God, where are you? Why can't I see the way forward? I've been there. I know what it's like to cry out to God in those moments, desperately seeking a sign or an answer, only to hear nothing in return. The silence can be overwhelming, and it's easy to start questioning, does God even care? If you're feeling like that right now, you're not alone. But here's something I've come to learn through my own journey. Sometimes God is most active when we're least aware of it. We expect Him to show up in big, unmistakable ways, but what if the silence doesn't mean He's absent? What if, in those quiet moments, He's doing something even greater behind the scenes? Life with God is a lot like planting seeds. When you plant a seed, you water it, make sure it gets sunlight, and wait for it to grow. But for the longest time, nothing seems to be happening. You're staring at dirt, wondering if it'll ever sprout. But beneath the surface, something amazing is taking place. Roots are forming, foundations are being laid, and one day, that seed breaks through the ground. That's how God works in our lives. Sometimes it feels like nothing is happening, like you're praying, waiting, hoping, but you don't see any change. But just because you can't see it doesn't mean God isn't working. He's laying the foundation, preparing you for something greater. The question is, are we willing to trust Him during the waiting? I know waiting is hard, especially when you feel like your world is spinning and you're trying to hold everything together. We want answers, and we want them now. We want the big breakthrough, the miracle that changes everything in an instant. But God often shows up in the small moments, the little reminders that He's with us every step of the way. It's easy to overlook those small blessings when you're focused on the big picture. But think about it. Maybe God is in that unexpected text from a friend, checking in just when you needed it. Maybe He's in that brief moment of peace you felt during a hectic day, or even in the strength that carried you through when you thought you couldn't take another step. God doesn't always move in grand, earth-shattering ways. Sometimes His presence is quiet, subtle, like a gentle whisper reminding you, I'm here. I haven't left you. Keep trusting. And those whispers, they're often preparing us for something we can't yet see. It reminds me of one of my favorite verses, Isaiah 40:31. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. It's a reminder that when we put our hope in God, He renews our strength, not just in the mountaintop moments, but in the everyday grind when we feel like we're barely hanging on. And it's not just about waiting for the big breakthroughs, is it? Sometimes the waiting itself is where the most important work happens. Waiting isn't passive, it's active. It's a time when God refines us, shapes us, and prepares us for what's next. Think about Moses and the Israelites. They were trapped between the Red Sea and an advancing Egyptian army. From their perspective, it was hopeless. But God was already working. He was preparing a way where there seemed to be no way. The sea didn't part right away. It parted at the very last moment. And in that moment, the path became clear. Maybe you're standing at your own Red Sea right now, feeling trapped, stuck between a rock and a hard place with no way out in sight. It's tempting to think that God's forgotten you or that He's late. But let me encourage you, God's timing is perfect. He's never late, even though it might feel like He's cutting it close. You see, trust is key. It's one thing to believe in God when everything's going smoothly, but it's something entirely different to trust Him in the middle of uncertainty, to trust Him when you can't see the way forward, when it feels like the world is crumbling around you. Trust means surrendering our need for control and believing that God's got this, even when we don't. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." That's powerful, isn't it? To be still, to stop striving, stop trying to fix everything, and just be. To know that God is God and He's in control, even when everything feels out of control. Maybe that's what you need today. To take a moment, breathe, and be still. To remind yourself that even in the waiting, God is working. Even in the silence, He's speaking. And even when you can't see the way forward, He's already gone ahead of you, preparing the path. So if you're in a season of waiting, don't lose hope. God hasn't forgotten you. He's working behind the scenes, preparing something greater than you can imagine. And when the time is right, that seed you've been planting will break through the soil, and you'll see the fruit of all that waiting. Keep trusting, keep believing, and know that you're never alone in this journey. God is with you every step of the way. If this message encouraged you today, please hit the like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more content that uplifts and inspires. Thanks for watching, and remember, God's timing is perfect, even in the waiting.